Welcome to this deep dive. We're tackling a massive question that's definitely on everyone's mind. If you're past those initial AI experiments, what does it really take to scale AI? Beyond just personal use or maybe a small team.
Right. It's a huge leap. It's the difference between having like a cool prototype that works for you and building something that actually delivers measurable operational value for other people.
Exactly. And our source today, it's this fantastic recap from the Chicago AI Mastermind group. They really dug into this specific challenge.
They did. And the fundamental insight they landed on is just crucial, I think. Scaling AI, it sounds super technical, right? But at its core, it's profoundly human.
Human. How so?
Well, it's about building trust, designing for adoption, making things work reliably for people who didn't actually build the thing in the first place.
Okay, that makes sense.
And they even used a classic framework to frame it, Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm. It highlights how moving from those initial wins with early adopters—
So tech enthusiasts.
Exactly. The people excited by the novelty moving from them to the early majority, that requires a totally different approach. You have to design for, well, pragmatists and skeptics, people who need solid proof and reliability, not just something shiny and new.
Okay, let's unpack that challenge then. Where do people typically get stuck, trying to cross that chasm with their AI projects? The mastermind group mentioned something called pilot purgatory.
Ah, yes, pilot purgatory, the dreaded zone. It's that state where you have a working AI prototype. Maybe it's great for your specific use case. Maybe even a few colleagues use it, but it just sits there. It never makes that jump to being a widely adopted tool across the organization.
And that's right where the crossing the chasm idea really hits home, I guess.
Yeah.
The early adopters, they'll put up with rough edges, they'll give feedback, figure things out.
They're invested.
But the early majority, those pragmatic users you need for real scale, they need something polished, reliable, easy to slot into how they already work.
Yeah, and Paul from the group had a really sharp point here. He said, using ChatGPT well is great, but it's not scale until someone else can use what you build without you.
Without you. Ooh. That's the kicker, isn't it? It really forces a shift in mindset.
Totally.
You have to stop building just for your own workflow, where you know all the little quirks and workarounds, and start designing for someone else, someone who might not have your technical background or context.
Absolutely. It's just a different engineering problem, fundamentally. Yeah. And when you make that shift, it exposes some foundational challenges that can stop projects dead in their tracks. The group ID'd 4 common ones.
Okay, lay them on us. What's the first major roadblock?
Data access and security. Eric brought this up. He highlighted how AI models often need very specific, sometimes quite sensitive data, and just getting the necessary access approved while making sure you're meeting all the security requirements, that can be a huge bottleneck.
Especially in mid-sized companies, he mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. They might not have those really streamlined processes for this kind of request yet.
Okay, so the AI could work, but it's grounded if it can't safely get the fuel it needs. Makes total sense. What's another big hurdle?
Tool drift and model volatility. This one sounds scary. Andrew shared a pretty painful real-world example. His team had to completely re-engineer an entire workflow mid-rollout.
Mid-rollout? Why?
Because OpenAI deprecated a model they were using, just pulled the plug on it, essentially. He described it pretty bluntly. Nothing was stable.
Wow. That's terrifying. You build your house on this foundation, and suddenly the foundation isn't there anymore. How do you even plan for that?
Well, that's the point, right? You have to build expecting change. It's a different design philosophy than building for a static target, which relates to the third challenge, vendor constraints.
Right, working with outside tools and providers.
Precisely. Brian H. talked about using this supposedly HIPAA-compliant tool. Seemed promising for what they needed, but ultimately it failed when they tried to scale it.
Failed how?
It produced way too much text, just overwhelmed the users, ironically making their jobs harder, not easier. So the tool itself became this productivity drain.
So even tools designed for a specific regulated environment can flop if they don't actually make the workflow better.
Okay. And the final challenge the group identified.
Support burden at scale. Paul chimed in again with his experience scaling Chamber AI. Going from supporting just 2 users to hundreds Doing that manually just wasn't feasible.
Right.
Customizing individual prompts, tweaking workflows for each new person, it just became overwhelming. He said, quote, customizing everything by hand didn't scale.
That ties right back to his earlier point, doesn't it? About someone else using it without you. If every new user needs manual hand-holding from the creator.
You haven't scaled the tool. You've just created a new unscalable job for yourself.
Exactly. So the common thread here, data access, the ground shifting under you with models, vendor issues, the support load, it seems like scaling isn't just more users. No, it's fundamentally more responsibility. Responsibility for reliability, for security, usability, ongoing maintenance, the whole package.
Okay, so facing those hurdles, data, drift, vendors, support, what did the group learn about actually getting past them? What were the sort of key lessons from the field?
They boiled it down to 5 key lessons. The first one, and we've kind of hit this already, is the absolute necessity to design for others. If you're not building with that end user, the one who isn't you firmly in mind, you're basically still in pilot mode.
Got it. Design for the target audience, not the builder. Makes sense. Lesson number 2.
Trust is the bottleneck. This one really hits home. It's not enough for you, the person building the AI, to trust it. The people you need to adopt it for, scale your colleagues, maybe your customers, they have to trust it too.
Trust it how? Like trust its outputs.
Both. Trust that it's accurate, yeah.
Okay.
Also trust that it's secure with their data. Trust that it won't suddenly break or do something unpredictable and weird. Without their trust, they just won't use it. No adoption, no scale. Simple as that.
That feels so critical. It's like trying to get people to rely on a new teammate who's sometimes brilliant but sometimes just makes stuff up. How do you actually build that trust?
Well, it really starts with reliability, which loops us right into lesson number 3. Volatility is the reality.
Back to Andrew's point about the shifting sands.
Exactly. The tech landscape, especially in AI, it's constantly moving. You can't just build for how things are today. You absolutely need a plan B, a strategy for managing change APIs, getting updated, models being deprecated, new versions rolling out. Your system needs resilience baked in from the start.
So plan for change. Don't just get sideswiped by it.
Gotcha. What's the 4th lesson?
Scale means doing it differently. Rick and the group apparently described trying to handle scaling manually as just overwhelming, and you can see why. You can't just keep doing more of the same thing you did when it was just a pilot.
Right, you need a different approach. Yeah, and Paul's solution for Chamber AI is a perfect example. Instead of writing tons of individual prompts, they built dynamic templates. It's about fundamentally changing your method, not just pouring in more effort doing the same thing.
Engineer for scale, don't just repeat the pilot faster. Okay, that's a powerful distinction. And the 5th lesson. I think this gives us a path for how to do it differently.
It does. It's their working mantra, which I really like. Train it, trust it, transfer it.
Okay, train it, trust it, transfer it. Break that down for us.
So train it is all about refining your AI solution. Rigorous iteration, lots of usage, getting it right, making it effective, and importantly, consistent for the specific task it's meant to do.
Getting the kinks out.
Basically, yeah. Then trust it. This is about putting it under real pressure, validating its performance in actual real-world scenarios, making sure it's reliable and safe when it really counts. Can you bet on its output?
Okay, so train is refinement, trust is validation, and transfer it. That sounds like the bridge to actual scaling.
It absolutely is. Transfer it means enabling other people to successfully use the tool without you having to constantly intervene. But, and this is crucial, it also means setting up ways to learn from how they use it.
Ah, the feedback loop.
Exactly. How are they actually using it? Where are they running into trouble? That feedback is totally essential for continuous improvement and getting broader adoption. You need to see it through their eyes.
That whole mantra, train, trust, transfer, it really feels like a practical roadmap for getting out of pilot purgatory and building that trust we talked about earlier.
It really does. Now, shifting gears a bit to the real talk the group had, they were apparently very honest about scaling failures they'd seen firsthand. You know, projects that just got stuck.
Why did they get stuck?
Usually because they were too custom built, too manual, or way too dependent on the original creator. The classic, it only works if Sarah runs it problem.
Yeah, I think many of us have seen that, or maybe even built something like that ourselves. It feels indispensable to the person who made it, but nobody else can really pick it up and run with it.
Exactly. And Paul, again, he articulated the ultimate goal for AI that truly scales. He said, invisible AI is the goal like a teammate you don't have to manage.
Invisible AI. Wow. That paints a really clear picture,
Yeah.
something that just seamlessly integrates into your workflow and works. You don't even have to think about it.
Right. But getting there means battling that volatility we discussed, the tools breaking or models drifting, which actually leads us to one of the most, I thought, exciting insights from the whole discussion.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
So Eric shared this perspective on generative AI that felt genuinely new. He put it this way: old saws picked between hard coding and configurability. Gen AI gives us a third way conversational configurability.
Conversational configurability. Say that again. That sounds significant. What's that actually mean? What does it unlock?
Well, he's suggesting that unlike traditional software, which is either totally fixed hard-coded or requires you to navigate these complex settings menus to customize it configurability.
Right, the endless drop-downs.
Exactly. He's saying generative AI could potentially allow users to shape and adapt the tool just by talking to it, telling it what they need in plain natural language.
Whoa, hang on. So the AI could potentially learn my preferences or adapt its output style, maybe handle slight variations in my requests, just by me chatting with it. That would feel much more like an invisible teammate.
It completely changes the user adoption challenge, potentially. Instead of having to train users on some rigid interface or complex configuration panel, you could, in theory, have the AI adapt to the user through conversation. It's a really powerful concept for the future of truly user-centric, scalable AI.
That really feels like a key horizon point for achieving that design for others goal and building trust naturally.
I think so too. And, bringing in a few other valuable perspectives that came up. Brian M. emphasized the power of just using clear language instead of jargon. Clarity scales better than complexity, basically.
Good point.
He also talked about running toward the fear, meaning you should tackle the really hard, scary aspects of scaling head on, don't avoid them.
Makes sense.
And Riley offered this beautifully simple distillation of the ultimate goal. Scaling means building systems that earn me time and money. Forget the fancy tech talk. That's the business outcome you need.
Simple, direct, and absolutely true.
And Dennis just reminded everyone of the simple but, profound value of just listening. Hearing other people's challenges, how they're trying to solve things, that itself can be incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
So all these different points, they really circle back to the main theme. Scaling isn't about building something more complicated. It's about building something with more clarity. Clarity of purpose, clarity in design, clarity in the value it provides to the user.
That clarity feels absolutely essential for getting across that chasm to the early majority. But okay, practically speaking, how do you assess if you're actually ready to make that leap? The group mentioned some practical tools, right?
They did. They mentioned an upcoming AI scaling self-check tool, which sounds like a really great way for individuals or teams to just pause and reflect. Hey, is what I've built really reliable? Could someone else actually succeed with this without my help? What would it take for us to truly trust it?
Sort of an internal gut check.
Exactly. And then they highlighted a more structured resource, the AI Scaling Readiness Checklist.
Okay, a checklist. That sounds useful. What's on it?
It gives you these really concrete areas to evaluate your preparedness. It starts with vision. Do you have clear, shared goals for this AI initiative? Is everyone on the same page about what success looks like?
Right.
Then,
Yeah.
is your data reliable enough? Is it accessible? Is it integrated in a way that AI actually needs to function effectively at scale?
Okay, vision, data, what else?
Talent. Do you have the right skills on the team? And that's not just for building the AI, but also for supporting it, for managing the change that comes with rolling it out.
Good point. The human side again.
Yep. Then technology. Are your platforms, your infrastructure actually scalable? Can they handle increased load? Are they maintainable over time, especially considering that volatility you keep talking about?
Technology, got it. What's next?
Governance. Are there clear, responsible policies around how the AI is used? Ethical guidelines, compliance checks, that sort of thing. Adoption. Do you have an actual plan for training users and managing the organizational change? How will you get people comfortable using it?
And the last one.
Measures. Are you tracking the right KPIs? How will you know if it's actually working? Is it really delivering that time and money saving Riley mentioned? Is it having the intended business impact?
That checklist. Wow, it really covers the gamut, doesn't it? It goes way beyond just the techie model itself. It hits all those human and operational layers that seem crucial for actually making scale happen.
It really does. And they mentioned it aligns well with frameworks like their AI strategy mosaic. It gives you a tangible way to look at your project and say, okay, where are our weak spots? Where do we need to focus before we try to push this out further?
So looking back at this whole deep dive into the Mastermind Group's insights, the The clear message seems to be that scaling AI, it isn't just about bigger servers or faster code. Not at all.
No, it's fundamentally about tackling those human challenges head on,
Hmm.
building trust, really designing for people who didn't build the tool, having a plan for the inevitable volatility, and ensuring absolute clarity in value and function.
And those lessons they shared, design for others, trust being the bottleneck, volatility's reality, scale means doing it differently, and that really practical mantra, train it, trust it, transfer it.
Yeah, that provides a pretty powerful framework for navigating the journey beyond just the pilot phase, doesn't it?
It really does. And having practical tools like that scaling readiness checklist gives you a kind of map to figure out where you are and what steps you actually need to take next.
So thinking about Eric's really exciting point, that conversational configurability, and Paul's goal of invisible AI, AI is that seamless teammate you don't have to actively manage.
Yeah.
How might you, listening right now, use that train it, trust it, transfer it framework, or maybe the questions from that scaling readiness checklist? How could you use those to build systems that really do adapt to your users' needs? Systems that become truly indispensable teammates?
So what's maybe one specific step you could take this week? Something concrete to move your AI initiative from just being a cool experiment that works for you toward becoming a genuinely trusted, scalable asset that works for others. Definitely something to think about as you move forward.